So what are the most important questions you need to ask a motivated seller when you get them on the phone so that you can make sure you get the right information, you put that conversation on track, and then you put yourself in a position that now you have the opportunity to get that property at a good discount and then be able to now sell it to a real estate investor when you're doing wholesaling and trying to get your first couple deals on your belt, or even if you are already doing deals. This video will give you some tips and strategies and will lay out the framework and the order in which I ask questions of these sellers and then deal with a lot of the other things and nuances around the conversation to make sure that we have a positive interaction with the seller. And this is important because if you're out there doing marketing and generating these motivated sellers that are raising their hands and saying, yes, I want to talk to you, you want to be able to take advantage of that opportunity with these sellers. And this is the video that's going to walk you through step by step to make sure that that initial part of the process, that first conversation, goes as smoothly as possible. And as always, I want to make sure that you subscribe to your channel, hit the notification bell, because it's just plain old rude to come here and to listen to my videos and just rummage around the channel and just leave like without paying your dues. And your dues are very easy, just the notification bell. If you don't want to do that, then give me a like at least. That's like the smallest thing you could do. Maybe make a comment, let me know you like this video. And again, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because otherwise then I'll get all depressed because I don't have enough subscribers, and then I'll hold you personally responsible for that. Well, enough of this nonsense, let's get right to the video. So what are the questions that you need to ask a motivated seller when you're doing a real estate wholesale deal so that you have now a chance and the opportunity to make them an offer and put yourself in a position where you're going to get a solid deal? Now, first of all, let's talk about what a motivated seller is, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. And a motivated seller is somebody that is willing to sell you their property at a discount. Now, what they are doing is that they are trading their equity for something else. I tell people all the time, we do not steal somebody's equity. They are not giving us their equity. Nobody gives us anything for free. What they're doing is they're trading their equity for something else. What are they trading the equity for? They're trading their equity for speed, for convenience, for not having to make repairs. The best example I can give, just from a non-real estate perspective, is that I had a truck that I owned free and clear, and I wanted to sell that truck. And I could have had the option of putting the truck to sell on Craigslist. However, I needed to redo the tires and I needed to fix a couple things up on the truck. I did not want to do that because I didn't want to go through the problem, through the aggravation of having to do that, plus then to put up the truck on Craigslist and deal with answering inquiries and all that other stuff. And so I took it to the dealer, knowing that the dealer was not going to offer me the same amount of money that I could get on my own directly from a buyer, but I just didn't want to deal with the hassle of doing it all. And that's exactly what we're talking about here. Now, in the truck example, it could also mean that, let's say, for example, that the car needed new tires. But let's say that I didn't have the money to afford to put in new tires in the truck. So now I can't get full market value. So I'm going to have to give it to the dealer and they're going to take it off my hands with the really horrible tires. Why? Because they're going to do something else with it. But I'm willing to take that trade-off because I just don't have the money to be able to do that right now. And that's what the not having to make repairs is in the example of the property owners. They just don't have the money to make those repairs. Now, how do we find these motivated sellers? And I've covered this in a variety of different videos here on the channel, but I need to clarify a couple things because what I'm going to walk you through is going to be the inbound conversation, not an outbound conversation. What's the difference? An outbound conversation is when you're dealing with a property owner that has not initially reached out to you. You are calling them and soliciting them to see if they're interested in selling their property. This is done if you're doing cold calling, where you're getting a list of property owners, you're skip tracing the information, you're getting their phone numbers, and then you're going to go ahead and reach out to them and try to ask them if they were interested in selling their property. This is, again, through cold calling. You can get a list and blast them with text messages. I'm not going to get into the legalities of this. This is not my favorite type of marketing. I don't do it at all, actually. So this script is really not designed for that. Not the beginning part of the script. When you get into the middle portion of the script, and the questions here, they're applicable to any seller, but that beginning point of entry in that conversation is going to be different. We're going to be dealing with inbound leads. These are people that raised their hands and said, yes, I am interested in selling my property, and I would like to have a conversation with you. That's my favorite type of seller. That's the one that I've always dealt with. My favorite method for generating those sellers is using Facebook ads to find motivated sellers. You can check out the links in the description here in this video for training that I have on exactly how I do that, or on this channel. And if you want help with that, I can more than happy to help you with that. Now, and so again, this outline focuses on inbound marketing, not outbound marketing. Now, before we get started, this series of questions is really designed around getting that information via the phone. However, many times we do ask this information via text messages. What I find is that when we're dealing with all this information here, a lot of times we can get everything here except for this negotiation. We always want to do that over the phone as best we can. But a lot of this information, sometimes we're able to get this just by texting back and forth with the property owner. Now, in addition to that, when I'm on the phone, when I'm having a conversation with a property owner, especially if I'm doing it here in front of my computer, I typically look at three things. And I have here those three things in front of me as I'm looking at the property information. Number one is I'm always looking at Zillow. It shows me the value from Zillow. It doesn't matter if we feel that the value is correct or not correct. The person on the other side, our regular typical owner, likely has checked on Zillow and has and uses that as an idea for them to know what the property is worth. So I want to know what that number is. So I can have an idea going in of what I'm dealing with. It shows me also if it's listed or not. If the property is listed for sale or had been listed in the past, there's usually an indication on Zillow for that. And so now it also shows me that. And then also if it was previously listed, I might be able to see photos of the property as well. In addition to that, I do have open Google Maps. It allows me to see the area of where the property is located. And then I'm also looking at PropStream. That's my recommended and the one that I use for determining values and determining offers on properties. You can go to Flipanywhere Comps, and it's not coming up there. Maybe the connection's a little bit slow. Let's see what happens. Maybe not. But that is what we use, what I use specifically to run all of the comps on any of the properties that I'm looking at buying. There you go, right there. Nope. Oh, that's interesting. It didn't show up. Why didn't it show up? Oh, you know what? There it goes. It didn't redirect. So that's it. You can sign up for a free trial here. And I'm going to have some videos on the channel specifically on how to use that as well. Great tool. So let's go to the next one. Let's go to the introduction. So the introduction, again, depends on how you're getting the lead, inbound versus outbound. This is an inbound introduction, and I look at the rule of three. And this is the example of if I got a lead from somebody that filled out a form on Facebook, how does that look like? And so whenever I start the call, and this is not a video on scripting or anything like that, but I think that this lays a foundation for everything, is a rule of three. I want to ask them three things so that they can say in their mind, yes, yes, yes. It kind of gets the ball rolling in the conversation. And whenever I'm on the phone with a seller, I always assume that the person that I'm speaking with is the right person. In the past, when you call somebody's house and you're dealing with, say, a regular landline, it was a house phone. So there could be 8 people in that house. So you had to ask for that person. Nowadays, you're dealing with a cell phone most of the time. And so you assume that whoever you're speaking with is the person that you're supposed to be speaking with. So I would just ask, hi, is this, and the name of the seller, is this, and I always call people by their first name. So, hi, is this Bob? Is this Mary? And they'll say, yes, who's this? I said, hi, Mary, my name is Cris from, and then you would say your name, company name, etc. Whatever you're using to identify yourself. You should have a property website that you can say, or you could say Cris Buys Houses, right? This is Cris from Cris Buys Houses. You saw my ad on Facebook. We're looking to buy. We on the post, we saw my ad on Facebook. Actually, you saw my post on Facebook. Most people don't realize that those are ads. So my post on Facebook, we were looking to buy a few properties in the area, and you filled out a form about your property looking to get an offer. Does that ring a bell? And they say, yes, it does ring a bell. Okay, great. Well, if you got 60 seconds, I'd love to get more information about the property, and see if it might be one that we could make you an offer on. Got a minute? And then that's it. And then now you go into the conversation. So what are the items that we ask in order to get enough information so we know what to do with this lead? Number one is obviously confirm the address. Well, let me confirm with you the address of the property. Okay, in the city, state, and zip, etc. Okay, great. And if I'm on the computer, then if I had a hard time looking that property up on Google Maps, then I'll try and look it up right then and there. And if I have an issue with getting it, I'll just ask and say, okay, well, I'm trying to look it up on Google Maps and it's not showing up. Is it showing up? Should it be under different? Is it this house? I think it looks like this. And they'll say, yeah, that's it. Okay, perfect. The next thing is, okay, great. And are you the owner of the property? And they'll say, most of the time they say yes. If not, who is and what's your relationship to them? They say, no, I'm not the owner. I said, well, who owns it? Oh, my mom. Okay, great. So you're helping them along with the property? Yes, that's right. Okay, great. Assume that they're initially the decision maker. Some people say, well, look, if you talk to Mary and you're like, who else is making a decision about the house? So you say, well, me and my husband. I said, well, I'd like to talk to both of you at the same. Then, I don't like that because it kind of insinuates to the other person that, oh, I don't think you can make a decision about this property, so I don't want to talk to you. So I don't like that. So I just assume that, hey, if you're talking to, you just want to get clarification of who you're talking to, really, at that point. Don't create too much of a friction here. You're just trying to, you're trying to create a flow of information and kind of in a way that then now they feel comfortable giving you more and more information as the conversation rolls along. Now, we talked about ownership. Let's talk about occupancy. And so we want to ask, so who's in this, and who's living? What I typically will do is ask more. This is an easier ask. Property details. So I'd love to get more information about the property. Can you give me a little bit more details, right? So I ask for details about the property, and I would say including bedrooms, baths, etc. And then as they give me that information, I write it down, and then I'll say, okay, a couple big items. The roof, is the roof new? Is it leaking? Furnace wouldn't be the case here in Florida, but it might be the case where you live. How old is the air conditioning? Bathrooms, kitchen, flooring. How is the bathroom? How is the kitchen? How long was the kitchen recently been updated? How long ago was it? What kind of work does it need? Is it in good shape, etc.? So you're just trying to get a feel for things there. Basement, that's something that wouldn't apply for Florida. We don't have any basements, because then you would drown if you're in Florida with a basement. But in other parts of the country, you may have basements. The next thing would be occupancy. Okay, well, are you living at the property or is it somebody else? And then, if they say, yeah, we're living at the property. Okay, great. And, are you looking to move out of the day of closing, or do you think you need some help in staying at the property, after the fact? And if they query about that, you say, well, sometimes we can be flexible in terms of being able to close on the property, getting your money, and then giving you time to move out. So I only ask that because sometimes it might be a convenience for you and wouldn't be able to accommodate you as best we can with your request and make the transaction as easy as possible. If they have tenants at the property, okay, great. And what are they paying in rent? What's the rent amount? What's the rent amount? Is it on a lease? Is it month to month? Are they paying, what are they paying per month? How much is that? And are they current? And then now if they say, well, look, I don't know if I want to tell you all this information. I said, Mr. Seller, I can certainly appreciate that you wanting to, make sure that you don't disclose that information to just anybody off the street. I mean, rest assured, whatever information you tell me stays with me, number one. Number two, I'm only asking this because we're looking to buy it as an investment property. And so then we are evaluating that property, from, the perspective of, hey, we might keep the tenant in there. We might just maybe make some repairs and renovations, but still keep that person in there. And so we're making the decision based on that. And that's the only reason I ask. I mean, if at any point when you're asking questions to the sellers, if they give you continually more and more resistance, typically those are not going to be deals. You're not going to be able to do a deal with somebody who's just being a friction about everything. Motivation. Hey, sounds like a great property. Why are you moving? Why are you selling? Well, what is it about your business? When somebody asks you that, just say, no, I'm just curious because it does sound like a great property and, just curious, that's all. And then if they say, no, I just rather not say, then don't dwell on it. Just continue on. All right. Don't make it a friction point. They don't know who you are. So they may have their cards tight to their, holding things to themselves because they don't want to, divulge too much information. Do you have a mortgage on the property that we may need to pay off? So that's a different way of phrasing it than say, hey, do you have a mortgage on the property? What business is it of yours? I say, hey, do you have a mortgage on the property that we need to pay off? When we close on the deal? Oh, yes, you do. Okay, great. And how much is the payoff that we need to pay off on that? So it's a different way of asking it, which I find sometimes gives you gives you a better chance of getting that information. Then you're going to get to the price, negotiation on the price, asking them, asking them for a price to get a gauge. All right. So the suggestion would be hey, so how much were you looking to get for the property? Oh, how much do you think the property is worth? They might say, well, gee, I don't know. You tell me. Well, then at that point, then I might look at Zillow, and Zillow might say 150. I'll do 50% of value, and I'll do a range. So let's say I have a property that's worth 200,000, 50% of value would be 100. So I might give them a range. So I'll always give an initial range. I say, great, Sally, I say, how much do you think how much were you looking to get for the property? So you might be like, well, I don't know. You tell me. Okay, great. More than happy to give you an offer. Typically a lot of the properties we buy in that area need a lot of work. We're going to go in and rehab them and make all the repairs, etc. And we're typically paying somewhere between, 90,000 to 115,000. It just depends on the property. Does that fall in your range? And then leave it at that. Many times their amnesia all of a sudden disappears and now they have a price on their property. Now, if they say, well, no, I would never sell my property for that price. What are you, a vulture, a blood-sucking vampire of a real estate investor? Then you would just say, well, hey, let me do this. Because based on the information that you're telling me, the property appears that it doesn't need as much work as some of the other properties that we recently purchased. So let me do the work. And so it sounds like and so they'll tell your price, and you can always say, well, let me see if I might be able to get that for you, or let me see what the best that I can do. Now, I'm not going to get into negotiating. I want you to watch a series of videos that I have. I'm going to click on open YouTube here. There's a playlist. If you go to playlist, there's a playlist here called, let me see here, how to negotiate with sellers, wholesale real estate. If you click on that playlist, just look for it. You can also type in the word negotiate, I believe, but just look for that playlist, how to negotiate with sellers, wholesaling real estate. I'll include that in the description as well. And that way you can take a look at that. There's some pretty good videos there that will give you some of the nuances when it comes to negotiating and working with sellers. Then the next thing was going to be a follow-up. Okay, great. I appreciate the time that we have on the phone here. Let me do this. Let me do some research. And then what I'll do is I'll call you back. And then that way I can let you know exactly what we could offer and then what the next step would be. Does that sound good? Great. Now, this here depends on what happens in the negotiation. So I would say watch this playlist here, and that'll give you more information, and then that way you can better structure that. So at the end of the day, this is just the basic information that you're going to ask, and how the flow of the conversation is going to go with the property owner. A couple of book recommendations I want to make to you is, number one, The Wolf of Wall Street. That guy, yes, he did some unscrupulous things and he went to jail and he still owes people money, but the guy knows how to sell. And this is a great book that teaches you this methodology of the 3 questions, and really the flow of how I have conversations with sellers really come from this guy here, Wolf of Wall Street. From Jordan Belfort. So this is a great book, outlines the whole thing, outlines his whole entire straight line selling system. I highly recommend it. The second book that I recommend is The Ultimate Sales Letter. This is the book that I bought initially that helped me and taught me how to create compelling advertisements, great postcards, great letters, and all the marketing that I do. Really, I learned from this guy, and this was the initial book that I purchased. Now, why am I asking you to maybe buy this book when I'm dealing with a seller conversation? Because I think this book really helps in understanding the psychology of somebody and how to convince them. This deals with it in terms of how do you convince them in print. But, convincing them in print is the same thing as convincing somebody with a script. It's just the words you say. So the Jordan Belfort will give you like a really great framework of how to work a conversation that leads someone to a positive outcome. This more is helping you in terms of what to say and how to position certain things, etc. Both books should be books that you should read and you should study. They are great books and will help you in your real estate business. So there you have it. Those are the questions and the flow of these questions when you are on the phone with a motivated seller. Make sure that here or somewhere on this, you're going to see some videos that I'm going to recommend to you. Specifically one on how to find motivated sellers on Facebook so that you can generate some of these sellers. And then now you can go through my process here in order to help you. And most importantly, how to do this business virtually. There's also training that I have on virtual wholesaling. Love to get you started with that. And again, I'll see you in the next video.